Hi, everyone. You are winding down your term with just a few weeks left, and we are finishing with the descriptive narrative essay. If you looked at last week's materials, the reading from the chapters, as well as some of the PowerPoints, you probably have a pretty good general idea of what we're striving for. So a narrative is simply a story. So you're telling a story, whether that's fiction, meaning it is not true, or nonfiction, which is it is true, or a kind of combination of the two. You are telling a story and adding as many descriptive details as you think will enhance the story. So storytelling involves characters, setting, some kind of conflict, and usually some kind of resolution by the end, whether that's positive or negative. And so I think I have a diagram of a story. It kind of goes like this. The conflict is that moment of tension, and it has to have some kind of conflict for us to call it a story, just because if it doesn't have conflict, it's kind of just us mundanely going through our day. So the conflict doesn't have to be big. It can be, I'm standing in front of a car lot and trying to pick the car that I want to buy, or it can be big, like I've lost my pet, or I have to decide if I want to quit my job, or if I want to leave my partner, or those big life decisions. So it can be smaller, it can be big, your choice. And when we add those sensory details, those descriptive portions of it, we are adding things like touch, taste, sight, smell, and sound. We tend to default to what we see when we tell a story, but we don't want to just tell a story. We want to show the story. We want to have images and memories ignite in our readers' minds when they're reading our stories. Most of what you write, no matter what the conflict is, will be something relatively relatable and universal. We all experience challenges in our lives. We all experience moments of joy. We all will unfortunately experience grief. So all of these things, whether big or small, we can understand. But when you add in those sensory details of when I went back to look at my grandparents' farm that I had basically partially grown up in, and the new owners had flattened the house and built a new one. Just remembering the lilac bush by the kitchen window and how it smelled, and remembering their dog Doc, who would run up and bounce all over and jump up at my grandmother. I had this moment of grief because some part of my childhood was gone. It was no longer accessible to me, and I only have those details left in my mind. So when we add touch, taste, sight, smell, and sound, we are helping to put the reader in the scene, to have them really feel what we felt. The other component is that figurative language. So similes, metaphors, hyperbole, alliteration, repetition, irony. There's lots of different ways to use a figurative language. Similes and metaphors are probably two of the most common. Similes use like or as. Metaphors are just a direct comparison. And on your pre-writing worksheet, I have some examples of those, and I want you to try them as well. I'm asking for you to put a bit of figurative language into your writing, because it is what we do in both short stories, novels, movies, plays, poems. It helps to amplify and beautify language. Again, it helps us to relate to something. If it has that simile and that metaphor, we can kind of think of it in a slightly new way, and it can help us to really conceptualize something that is pretty abstract. So try your hand at those. I had a good question from a student. Do I have to put everything that's in the pre-writing worksheet into my rough draft? No, you do not. The pre-writing worksheet is meant to be sort of a pre-writing worksheet, if you will, in that, we've gone over bulleting, brainstorming, diagramming, and mapping, and reporters' questions and outlining. This is a little bit more formulaic method of getting you thinking about the details you might want to put into the narrative. They don't all have to end up there, but it gives you material to work from. Oftentimes, staring at that blank page is the most intimidating part of writing. But if you have some of that detail there, like, who do I want to write about? How long is this story going to be? What kind of things did I hear when I was going through my car accident? They can help kind of jog your memory and layer in those details. If you get bogged down though by, I have a hard time with writing a simile, or I don't remember, write the story as you remember it, or as you want it to come out if you're writing fiction. And then after you've written it down, go back in and add sensory details. So maybe look at your paragraphs and be like, what could I add here that helps my reader hear the noises I heard, or to smell the things I smelled, or to watch the people I'm interacting with, how they stand, how they walk, how they laugh. That can be something you add in later. Additionally, a student said that they had actually been recommended to tell the story out loud, record it, and then write it down. Sometimes when we write, we get in our own way that it has to sound a certain way versus how we tell it. So if it helps you to just tell it and record yourself, whether that's on video or just on your phone, that might work for you too. The other thing I will say is that nobody is going to know whether your story is fiction or nonfiction. And I think these are great opportunities to work through things, to process things. I've certainly written some stories as examples of things that I've had to overcome in my life that maybe I wouldn't normally write about, but it helps me to process that. And I've also had students who've had some pretty traumatic things happen in their lives. And they're like, I need to tell this story, but I don't want to use I, me, my. I don't want to use the first person pronoun because it hurts too much. Give that trauma, that grief to another character. Move your pronoun to he, she, they, them. Have them experience it. But again, it can be a great way to process what happened. So it's your choice whether you tell it first person, I, me, my, or third person, he, she, they, them. You get to choose. You're the author. So decide which works best for your story. I hope that helps. I really look forward to reading these. These are my favorite essay of the term, just because they are a little bit more personal, a little bit more often heartwarming or heart-wrenching. And I like to end the term this way. So if you have questions about this, let me know, and I look forward to seeing them. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.